Okay, today I'm going to talk about my absolute favorite part of marketing in the last 2 years. Um, so local service ads, or Google guaranteed, Google screened, it's all the same thing. It's one of the most slept upon marketing strategies, in my opinion, for most markets. And it's a great time to get into it right now because once lots of other companies get into it, it's a lot harder to rank and it's not as effective. If you get in early, then you have a good response time, which is the most important thing for ranking them. Google knows and can trust that you receive calls. Um, then you're going to rank, and then you'll stay ranking even when lots more contractors join. So, for example, um, this is what the ads look like when you Google something, roofing company Mesa. There's these three results. On mobile phone, there's only two. This works for lots of different industries. General contractor is the one that they opened up earlier this year, so there's not as many people using it yet. Contractor, which includes home remodeling, concrete, etc. And so in a lot of areas, it's really easy to rank for general contractor because look at this one, only two people are using Google Guaranteed. So if you have a home remodeler, right now is the perfect time to get into Google Guaranteed because you're going to get all of these leads. Only four people total. You can see, bathroom remodel, kitchen remodel, foundations concrete, home building, etc. There's no one advertising for foundations of concrete in that area. It's crazy. And so this is how you do your market research to see how much competition there is for your client or whoever you're setting this up for. Um, but right now, especially for general contractors, it's the time to do it. You could also switch from bathroom remodeling. I mean, siding is a separate category. Siding contractor. Same with roofing, gutters, site install, siding removal. Look, only one person advertising for it. So right now, this ad isn't even running. This ad will only go live once there's two people for mobile, and once there's three, then it will go live on Google search results. Because right now, if you Google siding contractor, it probably won't show up. Yeah. So for Google Guaranteed, it's usually above the map pack, above Google Ads. So it's the new number one search result. So I think it's really, really important to get into it. How it works though is you get charged per lead. It's You can either set how much you want to pay for each lead, or you can do the maximize leads bidding strategy, which is what I recommend you doing, and then it will always just bid the market rate. Each market is a little bit different. I've seen the most expensive one I've ever seen is San Antonio. It's a super competitive roofing market. They were $50 per lead. This account here, this is New Mexico. No, this might be Las Vegas. But anywhere between $25 to $50 is the cost per lead. And this is roofing. When I do Google Ads for roofing, the cost per lead is usually around $80 to $100. So it's less than half the cost per lead. And it's also a really high quality lead, just like every other Google ad lead. Because there are people searching on Google for roof repair, roof replacement, etc. The message leads, these message ones, they cost half as much as the call leads. So if you look here, let's go to our main account here. So if you look at leads, you'll see we have 0 in the new. That's really, really important. They're not using this CRM to the fullest right now. Ideally, you want to move them to booked, completed, and archived, and not just have them all in active. But at least you don't have them in new. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But you'll see here the lead type. So people will send a message here, and then you can respond to it with the app or on the desktop like this. And then if they do book an appointment or you decide to install on them, you mark it as booked. And then if it's already completed or upcoming, you'll set the time, etc. That's how you manage the CRM. The main thing, so I wrote a little guide here real quick. So these are all the categories that are available currently in Google Guaranteed and local service ads. So that the ads at the top is what local service ads are. You don't actually have to be Google guaranteed in order to have local service ads work for you. Let me show you. So Google guaranteed specifically is this little badge right here, the check mark. That's saying that you've been screened by Google and Google is recommending you as a quality contractor. That means that your owner and any customer facing employees have taken a background check, they've checked your insurance, they've checked your licensing, and so they recommend you, and they're going to even refund anybody who, if you service their stuff and they recommended you and you mess up, then they will even insure and refund the money that they messed up. So if you look here, these ones at the bottom, they don't have the Google Guaranteed badge. So these are just local service ads. They're running it, but maybe they don't have the licensing, or maybe they don't have a good enough reviews, or they don't have the insurance, or maybe they couldn't pass the background check. So there's lots of other people who are trying to use local service ads, and they still will get some calls, but not as many as if you have the green check mark, which looks like, let me show you, the business verification. So each industry is a little bit different on what they require. Like some industries don't require licensing, so this would be taken off. But you'll always need your billing information, your budget. You'll need 3-star or above reviews, which is on your GMB. The owner will need to pass a background check. Technically, they want anyone who is a customer-facing employee to pass a background check, but they don't know who a customer-facing employee is, so I usually only just send it to the owner. And then insurance. So yeah, that's right there. There's also another thing called Google Screened. That's specifically for professionals. The main thing is lawyers. There's a lot of lawyers who do it. The cost per lead is higher than Google Guaranteed leads because a lawyer lead is really valuable. Usually this I see like around $40 to $80 is the really high end, but it's still, I mean, most market, there's not a ton of people using it still, so it could be closer to the $40 range. And there's no badge on these because they're not like separate businesses always, and it has a profile picture of the person since it represents them. For setting it up, if you ever need to get a hold of the background check people, this is their number. If there's any issues with it, this is the local service ad support number. You'll probably need to call them a couple times. When you first set up the account, it's good to call them so that they can speed up the process of connecting the GMB to your account. Otherwise, it takes a while. If you ever need to change the phone number, you'll need to call them to change it. They won't change because they don't want anyone just to come in and change the phone number that the calls are being forwarded to, and any other issues. So the actual ranking of the ads, this is the most important part. I've seen a lot of other customers try to set their ads up on their own, and they were doing a lot of things wrong. So the very most important thing is the response time. So anytime you miss a call, that's why I was saying earlier that this needs to be a 0. Every single day, you need to have 0 in new leads. Let me see if there's another account that has. This is all one company, by the way. They have just 3 locations. So this one, they have missed calls. If it's a missed call, you need to look up the number, call them back immediately as soon as possible, and then as soon as you call them back, if they didn't answer, just archive the lead. If they did answer and they become a good lead, then you can put the notes in and they'll become a live lead or booked a call. Same with messages too. If you got a message and you didn't respond to it, that's really bad. So 625, 2 months ago, I'm just going to archive that. And just keeping this at 0 is really, really important. Because Google, how it works is if you don't get a call, like you miss the call and don't answer the phone, Google doesn't charge you for that lead. They will if the customer leaves a message because they assume that the message has information about the lead. But if they don't answer the phone and they don't leave a message, then they don't charge you for the lead, which means Google isn't getting paid. And Google really hates not getting paid. So you just cost them maybe $40 that they could have gotten if they had sent the lead to someone else. So they're going to drop your rankings horribly. Your rankings are going to tank if you get a lot of missed messages and a lot of missed calls. And so like this one, we had the guy who is working in the field answering the calls. And then I made the client, I was like, hey, they're not responding to the messages. They're not looking at the app. they're missing calls, and so now we have somebody who's dedicated just to answering the calls, and they just started the ads again up. So it should work fine. So I highly recommend you get somebody who's dedicated, like a receptionist whose just job is to answer calls and do office work, who can always take the calls, because it will tank your rankings. I've had to create new accounts where we just completely scrap it. You have to talk to support about scrapping it or using it with a different GMB in order to clear your response time history, because if Google has they record how fast you respond to each message and how many calls you miss, and if you did miss a call, if you called them back and responded to it. They record all of that, and that will pretty much destroy your rankings and your chances of ever getting a call ever again if you have a bad one. So this is by far the most important thing. The other things, though, is reviews, high quality photos, especially if you request the reviews directly through the platform. Like if I have a completed job or whatever, and I don't know, these guys aren't really doing maybe this one. So if I have the completed job, I can click here, ask for a review, and then this job is completed August 24th, and then I just send, and then it will send them a request for review, and they'll leave it, and it will increase your rankings. So that's another good thing to do, and it helps rankings as well. Another thing is high quality photos. So these ads, if you notice, they all just look the same, but you can edit the business bio and you can add photos. So see this? Having good photos can sometimes help with conversion rates, as well as this business bio part. Financing, family owned, 24/7 emergency service, free estimates. And I can show you where to edit that too. So under profile and budget, you just click here, business bio. And you can check the ones that you qualify for. You only lets you do 6, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. But that's really important to fill out. The other thing is, when you first start out, you want to expand your service area as much as possible. So, which I can show you where to do that. When you're doing profile and budget, you click here. And the easiest way is usually to add them by county, because that's largest, instead of doing it by city or zip code. But for example, this account, when we first started it, we did almost all of Arizona just to get it up and rolling, because there's not as many competitors. There's tons of people advertising in Phoenix, and there's tons of people advertising in Mesa, as you saw, I showed you. But there's not very many people advertising in Tucson or Sierra Vista or up here north in Kingsman. And so we expanded the service area so they could get calls everywhere, and we were getting tons of calls from everywhere, and Google knew that they answered the calls most of the time, and so we were ranking really well. We were getting an average between 70 to 120 leads per month with this account. And then they said, all right, well, let's just work in our main areas. We have 2 crews, one here and one here. So they closed down the rest of the service area and just focused on the quality leads that were close by them. But they're already ranking really well because we expanded it and got leads from everywhere, where it's less competitive. So that's a good trick to start off. Another trick is to expand to a less competitive category at the beginning, like roofing. Most roofers kind of know about local service ads now because it's such a good deal. The word has gotten out. And so there's a lot of roofing local service ads, but there's almost no siding, like I showed you, or home remodeling or other categories. So you could add a secondary category of home remodeling, which has hardly any competition, and then, I mean, it's actually under general contracting, but do like home remodeling ones, and they could get jobs from that, if your client also does that. Business bio, I mentioned. Expand your hours. That's another important thing to make sure you do when you first set it up. So your business hours here, this is, you input it when you first do it, and it matches your GMB business hours. But you need to go in here and click schedule and edit the how you want it to, oops, that was weird, how you want it to show. So you could either do it all day, only during my business hours, or custom hours. So I'd recommend doing all day if your person wants to answer the phone at all hours of the day, because then you get the most chance of getting the most leads. If they know that they want to stop answering the call at 6 o'clock, then you could do custom hours and just do it till 6 o'clock, even though it's longer than your business hours. Or you could just keep it simple and do it only during your business hours. The advantage of doing it longer is some businesses only run it till maybe 5 o'clock, and so it's less competitive after those hours. The last thing is just to get started before everyone else. That's the other ranking advice. Just do it as soon as you can. Like, for example, I have a client who was trying to convince to do it, AC contractor, a year ago. And at the time, I tried to, hey, look, that's him. I just set this up, and he's ranking, apparently, because it's #1. But I tried to set this up a year ago for him, and he didn't want to, but he just had me set it up 2 weeks ago. And right now it's ranking, because I'm good at ranking this stuff and know a lot of tricks, but it would have been a lot easier to rank it if we'd started a year ago before there was like 100 other AC contractors who were doing it. We would be ranking a lot larger service area. Look at that. We have literally 100 other contractors in HVAC. Crazy. Anyways, that's pretty much it for local service ads. It takes hardly any time to set up everything. You just go through and fill out the profile. I also recommend, I didn't put that on there in the guide, but I'll add it. You definitely want to add a high budget. So I always put at least $1,000 a week, maybe $1,500 or $2,000. It doesn't really matter what you put, because at the beginning you're not going to get a ton of calls, and you're never going to get the actual amount that you're trying to budget for. So just keep an eye on it. Put $1,000 a week, because that's one of the ranking factors technically. If you put a high budget, then Google's going to try to show your ad more in order to fulfill that budget. But they won't be able to get so many leads that you actually meet the budget most of the time. Like, for example, I'm doing this one at $2,000 a week, but if you look this month, I don't think we've spent $8,000. We might spend $4,300, which is still good. But they want as many leads as they can, because every one of these leads, it's a chance to have a roof replacement, which costs $10,000, $15,000, and so they don't really care. They'd be happy to spend $8,000 to $10,000 a month on these leads. As long as your business is profitable, then these leads are a no-brainer. So I would just max out the budget, unless you're a really small company and can't afford like $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Then, because that's all you're going to be spending at the beginning when you're not ranking as well, then you might want to watch it closer, and just lower the budget when it gets close to their actual budget. But in general, just put it at $2,000 a week, or $1,000 at least. And yeah, that's how to local service ads. I do this for free for all of my clients that sign up for SEO with me, because it is kind of an SEO thing more than a paid ad thing. It doesn't take a lot of my time. I just set it up, optimize it, consult with them, make sure that they have somebody to answer the phone, make sure that they have someone who knows how to use the CRM, and they go from there. Anytime they need to change things, they'll call me, and then I'll just call support, fix it. Sometimes I'll add a few more photos every once in a while, or go through and request reviews with it. But it's pretty much a hands-off quality lead source that everyone should be jumping on, because it just works really, really well.